We went on romantic trips to Paris and Rome, where Jake surprised me with private tours of museums after hours. We celebrated holidays with each other's families, and I felt like I had truly become part of his world. Jake's parents welcomed me with open arms, always telling me how happy they were that their son had found someone like me. Last year, we moved in together. Jake suggested we get a place of our own but keep his old apartment as a workspace. I didn't think much of it at the time. Jake often worked late, and I thought it was sweet that he wanted to keep his noisy conference calls from disturbing my sleep. On our second anniversary, Jake proposed. He took me back to the rooftop where we had our first date, got down on one knee, and presented me with a stunning diamond ring. I was overjoyed and thought I had found my soulmate. We immediately started planning our wedding, set for exactly a year after our engagement. Before me, Jake was in a long-term relationship with a woman named Sam, 29F. They dated for 5 years and were even talking about marriage. Jake had told me about her early in our relationship, wanting to be honest about his past. From what he shared, it seemed like they had been deeply in love but ultimately broke up because his family didn't approve. Jake met Sam in college. They were both pre-law students and ended up in the same study group. At first, they were just friends, bonding over their shared ambition and love for debate, but over time their relationship evolved into something more. Jake always spoke fondly of those early days, study sessions that turned into all-night conversations, surprise picnics in the quad, and their first kiss under the stars after winning a mock trial competition. Sam came from a middle-class background and was attending college on a scholarship. Jake admired her drive and determination, often saying she was the smartest person he knew. They dated all through college and law school, supporting each other through the stress of exams and internships. They talked about building a future together, dreaming of starting their own law firm one day. But Jake's family, especially his mother, never warmed up to Sam. They thought she wasn't from the right social circle and worried she was only interested in Jake for his money. Jake assured me that Sam wasn't like that at all, but his family couldn't see past their prejudices. Things came to a head at a family dinner where Jake brought Sam to formally introduce her as the woman he wanted to marry. His mother made mean comments all evening about Sam's clothes and background. She asked pointed questions about Sam's family, making it clear she thought they weren't good enough. When Jake announced their plans to get engaged, his father threatened to cut him off financially if he went through with it. Jake was torn. He loved Sam, but he also didn't want to disappoint his family or lose his inheritance. In the end, he chose his family's approval over Sam. He broke things off with her, devastating both of them. Jake always spoke of this decision with regret, saying it was the hardest thing he'd ever done. That's the background I knew, but yesterday I discovered there was much more to the story. Jake and I live together in our new apartment, but he still keeps his old place and goes there sometimes to work or hang out with friends. Yesterday, I stopped by to drop off some dry cleaning he had forgotten. Jake was in the shower when I arrived, so I let myself in with the spare key he had given me. I sat down at his desk to leave him a note, and that's when I noticed his laptop was open. I'm not usually the snooping type, but something caught my eye. There was an email account open that I had never seen before. The inbox was full of messages from Sam. My heart started racing as I scrolled through and read their exchanges. It turns out Jake and Sam had reconnected about a year ago, right around the time he proposed to me. At first, it seemed innocent, catching up as old friends, but over time their emails became more intimate and flirtatious. They started meeting up for coffee, then dinner, then overnight stays when I was out of town for work. Jake had been using his old apartment as a place to see Sam without me knowing. All those late nights at work suddenly took on a new, painful meaning. What hurt the most was reading how they talked about me. Sam would make jokes at my expense, calling me naive and clueless, and Jake would play along, agreeing that I was too trusting. In one email, he wrote, "At least she doesn't ask too many questions. Makes this all much easier." I felt sick to my stomach. The man I thought I knew, the man I was about to marry, had been lying to me for months. But it got even worse. In their most recent exchanges, Jake and Sam were making plans for after the wedding. Jake wrote, "Don't worry, I'll find a way to bring you on the honeymoon too. I'll book you a separate room nearby. We can meet up while she is at the spa or something." Sam replied, "My hero. Can't wait to be Mrs. Jake in secret while Little Miss Perfect plays house." I was in shock. I couldn't believe Jake would betray me like this. And to plan to bring his mistress on our honeymoon, it was beyond cruel. As I sat there trying to process everything I had read, memories from the past year started to take on new meanings. The weekend Jake said he was at a conference but came back without any new business cards or materials, the mysterious texts he would get that always made him smile, the times he was distant or distracted, which he blamed on work stress. I thought about all the wedding planning we had done together, how enthusiastic Jake had seemed about every detail from the flowers to the seating chart. Was it all just an act? Was he secretly planning a life with Sam this whole time? I remembered a conversation we had a few months ago about starting a family. Jake had seemed hesitant, saying he wasn't sure he was ready for kids yet. At the time, I thought he was just nervous about the responsibility. Now I wondered if he was keeping his options open for a future with Sam. As the shock began to wear off, anger set in. I had given Jake everything: my love, my trust, my future plans, and all this time he had been lying to me, sneaking around with his ex, and making a fool of me. I sat there for what felt like hours, trying to decide what to do. Part of me wanted to confront Jake immediately, to scream and demand answers. But another part of me wanted revenge. I started formulating a plan. I decided not to let on that I knew anything. I would go through with the wedding preparations as planned, but I would make some changes to the wedding ceremony that Jake and Sam wouldn't see coming. During my vows, instead of the sappy speech I had planned, I would read out some of the emails between Jake and Sam, letting all our guests know exactly what kind of man Jake really is. I imagined the shock on everyone's faces, especially Jake's parents, who had welcomed me so warmly into their family. I planned to tell Jake's parents everything.